meeting come to order?
A minute early.
Good job,
We'll start
Christie.
with the pledge of allegiance.
Well, yeah. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Christy Arlinghouse, and about 20 minutes ago, I was told I had to chair the meeting, so bear with me. The attorney's going to keep me straight, he told me, and he said he wants to go home and watch the basketball game, so we better make this quick. And we also have Chris McDaniel here with us tonight, and he's scheduled to be at 3 meetings tonight, so as soon as we do roll call, prayer, pledge of allegiance. Chris, you're up, okay? Roll call. Roll call first.
Chad Longbonds. Vince Albanese.
Here.
Carter Dickerson.
Here.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Here.
Patrick Hackett.
Here.
Bob Mueller.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a quick prayer. Lord, we ask you tonight to give us the proper guidance in making decisions for our citizens and protect our first responders, help our residents that are in need through sickness or any other problems that they may have, and God bless the city of Crescent Springs.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, first up is Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Ms. Arlinghouse. Members of council, I certainly do appreciate it. I hope the mayor gets to feeling better soon. So as you guys are aware, I get around after each legislative session, give you a brief update as to what I worked on, what we worked on, and then what specifically pertains to local government. So just moving quickly through, first of all, as always, I tried to move constitutional elections to even numbered years. For the 6th session in a row, I got it out of the Senate unanimously, and it died in the House. So I continue to struggle with some help there. Two things of interest locally, though. First of all, moving the filing deadline. As you know, right now, the filing deadline is at the end of January. We moved it up to the first Friday after we return into session. Most of you who've been around Frankfurt have heard an excuse for inaction of we need to get through the filing deadline. Let's see who's filed. I just want to get that out there sooner and quicker and get on with the work that we should be doing in Frankfurt. So we moved that. Secondly, Senate Bill 202, we restructured the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board. Most of you will recall last year we experienced what we believe to be the biggest embezzlement in the history of North American Convention and Visitors Bureaus up here locally. And we needed to get some more financial acumen on that board and have more direct control from the judge's executive who appoint. And so that's what that bill did. I also worked on guardian ad litem reform, quasi-pension bill, the budget bill. In particular, one of the things, and mind you, this wasn't a budget session, but we always have something that has to be done. But the big thing that we dealt with this time around, and actually had to override the governor's veto, was funding for the Northern Kentucky Area Development District. The Department of Local Government had changed their formula that severely disadvantaged our ad, breaking with about 40 years of precedent. So we clarified for them exactly how they were to be funded, and the ad will tell you that they were very happy with how that came out. Also, a lot of you, I don't know anybody in this community that just does one thing, right? Most of you have some involvement with a nonprofit, be it your church or Goodwill or whatever the case is. There was a big issue regarding sales tax on admissions. We did do away with the sales tax on admissions and for fundraising sales for all nonprofits. And so that I can define fundraising sale, it's a non-recurring event. So the example I like to give people is when the Diocese of Covington does their AQ fundraiser each year, that's tax exempt. But the bookstore that the Diocese of Covington runs down at the Curia, that runs each day, that competes with private business, that is not tax exempt. So that's kind of the delineation to make in your mind.
What about cities that had community centers and stuff like that they might have?
We also cleaned it up for municipal governments, so you won't have to worry about, like, if somebody wants to rent Taylor Mills got that house out there in Pride Park. You guys have your event center, things like that. You will not need to charge tax on that.
What about like the Diocesan Children's Home has a like a flea market 2 days a week? And they sell donated items, used clothes, furniture, things like that.
I would say if they have it 2 days every week, they probably ought to get revenue to get an interpretation of exactly what it is, because they're going to exist in one of those gray areas. Like, for example, we clarified Goodwill, for example,
Okay.
who runs every single day of the week. They are not exempt from
They're
charging
not
sales
exempt.
tax. That's correct. Now, if
So
Goodwill
St.
has
Vincent de Paul-
a fundraiser, that's tax exempt, but that the Goodwill store where they sell stuff every single day would not be.
And so St. Vincent de Paul's the same way. They're open every day now.
I would say they probably, now, that being said, they've always technically had to charge sales tax on anything. Once their sales threshold hit $1,000, they were supposed to be charging sales tax anyway.
Oh, okay.
So whether or not they had been is up for debate.
Are letters going out to the nonprofits letting them know about this?
Oh, I will tell you, every nonprofit has been touched by either their headquarters or the nonprofit network or what have you. And I can tell you, every one of them's called me too. So, and that's why we work so hard on it. Some other significant bills that you'll see out there, Senate Bill 4 requires electronic filings for members of the General Assembly. This is our finance reports. There was a trick that had begun to be played by some folks where, especially as you came close to the election time, people would extend the full amount of their grace period. And what a lot of people don't realize is when we send our filings in, if they're not submitted electronically, which is very, very, very difficult right now, but we've invested in some software to make it easier, what happens is literally all those forms have to be manually input, one keystroke at a time. And it's nothing to get to the end of a cycle and have 35 pages of campaign finance report. So what folks would do is they wait till the end of the grace period, and then they would send it in via fax, knowing it could never be input. And that's where people were burying donors that they didn't want people to know about before the election. So with electronic filing, you hit send, and it's out there for the world to see. And we do away with a lot of those games. So that was a big thing. Senate Bill 1, school safety, dealing with putting more law enforcement and mental health counselors in schools. Senate Bill 6 cleans up the executive branch ethics code. Senate Bill 31 requires the cabinet, when they have a sibling group where brothers and sisters are separated going into foster care. I actually dealt with this personally when my children were being fostered. We had a sibling group separation. Said that it has to be a priority of the cabinet for those kids to get to still visit each other as brothers and sisters. Senate Bill 70 makes strangulation a Class D felony, and Senate Bill 7 was another big one up here. The Northern Kentucky ad lost a lawsuit regarding requiring arbitration as a condition of employment. It basically just clarified that, like the other 49 states, we can require arbitration as part of a condition for employment. Things of city and county interest. First of all, Senate Bill 148 gets into the disposal of excess property. Senate Bill 89, a lot of municipalities have begun having to clean up meth houses inside of their own communities, and there was no method for financial recovery from the city having to do that. So this allows for that. Senate Bill 104 says firefighters and fire departments can't use Class B foam when they're training their firefighters. Senate Bill 140 provides a grant program for Hep A vaccinations for firefighters. Senate Bill 230 allows email and fax requests for open records requests. Senate Bill 131, now this is an interesting one in the law enforcement community. We've been having some issue with DNA evidence being disposed of before a criminal trial. And this simply states that if there's DNA evidence going to be used in a criminal trial, it has to be held until after the trial is completed. House Bill 69, you guys will probably like this. It allows more flexibility for local investments. So cities that are fairly financially sound, it doesn't get into risky investments at all, but you can do more than just put your money in very, very low level interest. Allows you to get a little bit more money on what you're holding. House Bill 26, another good one, amends local purchasing authority. Right now you have to advertise if you're paying more than $20,000. This raises that up to $30,000. House Bill 49 deals with retirements, folks that retire after they've won an election. We saw some instances of this recently in where folks would win knowing that they didn't have general election opposition, so they retire and then come back drawing a pension even though they knew their job was guaranteed. And we said, no, that's a pre-existing arrangement, you can't be doing that. House Bill 141 requires surplus property acquired through asset forfeiture. Those receipts go into restricted account. House Bill 191, this deals with revocation of peace officer certification. So what we've seen, and actually this complaint came from both cities, counties, as well as police departments, saying, hey, if somebody gets in trouble as a law enforcement officer, they're under investigation, and they just resign in lieu of disciplinary action, there's nothing that follows them to let folks know, hey, this has happened. So this basically requires, hey, if you resign in lieu of disciplinary action, you still have to report that to the Department of Criminal Justice and Training so that a future employer can know, hey, these were the conditions surrounding that. House Bill 240 deals with nominations from the judge executive and timeframes there. House Bill 335 says if you're selling something and it's less than $5,000, you don't have to get an appraisal on it. House Bill 397 lets sheriffs charge up to $60 for requested services. So right now these sheriffs are going out and doing evictions and spending a day or a day and a half and charging $30, and it's just not even close. I mean, $60 still doesn't cover their costs, but it gets them at least a little bit more money. House Bill 339 is a cleanup to a bunch of miscellaneous city statutes and stuff. I'm not going to go other than say you can no longer hire a city marshal. Sorry. Apparently you could before. And then lastly, House Bill 337 is actually a big one for us locally that says deputy sheriffs don't have to reside in Kentucky. Previously, if you had a deputy sheriff, they had to be a resident of the Commonwealth, and this will allow a little broader net for our sheriffs to go through. So I know I went through that very quickly, but we all want to watch basketball, and I've got to, I've been trying, these council meetings were dragging out till the middle of June, and the information I was giving wasn't timely, so we tried to put a few more in each evening, and the reason they would drag out is because, like tonight, there's 3 folks at the exact same time. So I appreciate you putting me in the front and working with me, and working with me throughout the session as we try to craft good policy for the citizens of the district.
Well, we thank you for your help downstate with representing the interests of the city, and you do give a quick briefing, I must say. You could be on TV. What was it, FedEx used to have the guy that motored?
Yes.
You could audition for that at the next.
We go between the concrete, the farm, and 4 kids. I think I got enough on that.
Okay, I think so too. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Next up, Judge Knuckleman couldn't make it tonight. We have 2 people from the county. Nick Hendricks is gonna, I think, mainly do this talking, right?
Yes.
And we're gonna be talking about the update on Bromley Crescent Springs Road. I'll turn it over to you.
I am not Nick Hendricks. I'm
Well,
Joe
then-
Shriver, which is fine. No,
Well,
I'm Joe
I'm
Shriver.
terrible
I'm
with
the
names.
county administrator here on behalf of Kenton County Judge Executive Judge Knuckleman. He's actually in Frankfurt at the moment, and but I did want to come to introduce our county engineer, Nick Hendricks, who will give a synopsis, just a little bit of the history on the Bromley Crescent Springs project, which I know seems like a very, 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 very long project, but he has some updates that will, and then we also have Lochner and GRW here with us who are working on the project as well that can answer some questions that the council may have. Nick?
Good evening, members of council, and forgive me, my voice is a little shaky. I think everything's blooming, and you'll hear it here in just a couple of minutes. This has kind of become a little bit of an annual road show, and to give you an update, particularly the new members that haven't been as familiar with the project. The City of Crescent Springs, City of Fort Mitchell, and Kenton County Fiscal Court went together on an SMK grant in spring of 2013, and they were successful on the piece to get from basically Anderson down to Short Amsterdam. That's the piece of Bromley Crescent Springs that we're talking about with this project. It wasn't until early 2015 that the thing really got legs and started moving. GRW is our design consultant, and I'll introduce those guys in just a second, but we've got GRW and HW Lochner here that represent our collective interest. GRW is our design consultant, started working through a handful of alternatives. In the fall of 2015, we had a public meeting at River Ridge Elementary, and GRW presented a handful of alternates, and we left with some general feedback. We also solicited some written feedback. Took everything that we heard at the meeting from both businesses and residents and put together what we call a preferred alternative for the project, and found out, I guess within a month or so, early 2016, that our preferred alternate was significantly over our $6 million grant award. In years past, let's say early to mid-90s, that may not have been a big issue for the transportation cabinet to help us figure out ways to get there, but in the current budget scenario, funding scenario, that was kind of a non-starter. We had to have a project in terms of scope that met the fee that was presented. And again, it's about a $6 million project with the $1 million local match provided by the two cities and the county. So GRW started working, I would say feverishly, to put together some alternatives for the project. We had another curveball come in after we realized we were significantly over budget, and that is that if the project were to have remained a county road, county, city, obviously it's broken into pieces where the city has some jurisdiction, where the county, unincorporated county has some jurisdiction. If it were to have remained in that system, it would have fallen into SD1's MS4, basically their jurisdiction. And with their new quantity and quality regs that came out after the grant award, there would have been some major financial impacts to the project to retain enough water and to clean enough water, storm water, to make the project feasible. Arguably, there would have been enough to probably kill the project. I don't know that we would have been able to continue down that path. So the county started working with the Transportation Cabinet on some road swaps, basically things that we could do to put this section of road in the state's system and for the county to take on some pieces of road in the southern end, because the Transportation Cabinet does not fall under the same jurisdiction that SD1 does. Now, that's not the only reason that we thought it was a good idea to make a road swap, a road transfer. This new route in the state system will complete a route from basically Kentucky 8 in Bromley all the way to Dixie Highway in Erlanger. So it fits well in the system. The things that the county took on behalf of the cities in the county and the south end fit better into our system, candidly. At that point, we were able to start working with the cabinet on a preferred alignment that worked for them. Unfortunately, that set of gyrations cost us probably a year, 18 months, something like that, just trying to find that alignment that the Transportation Cabinet was comfortable with. Once we got that alignment, Greg Cruikshands and his team, Greg's project manager, again, I'll introduce him in a second, worked on kind of honing in the details of that, what the typical sections look like, where our walls are going to be located, are we going to have pipes, are we going to have bridges, those sorts of things. And in, let's see, was it like August, Debbie, that we brought you guys on, August, September, we were at a point where we were ready to move to the right-of-way phase. So in terms of the entire project, there's 4 phases. For a local type project, state project, it's design phase, right-of-way phase, utilities relocation phase, and then the construction phase. The last 5 minutes, I've just been talking about the design phase. That's as far as we've come. Again, until last August, September, where we got the green light from the Transportation Cabinet to move into right-of-way acquisition phase. At which time we brought on H.W. Lochner and Debbie Taylor, who's also here with us tonight, and her team to help work us through right-of-way acquisition. As a reminder, this is a federal grant that is basically a pass-through through OKI, and so there are any number of federal strings and regulations attached to that money. I am, for one, very thankful that we've got Lochner on board. They are very familiar with those federal strings and the way that the process has to move from initial contact all the way through acquisition. And so we're very fortunate to have both of our consultants. GRW has an enormous amount of background in geometric design and have done a number of projects across the state. H.W. Lochner's in the same position, but on this project, they're handling right-of-way for us. We are, I come to report that we are in as good a position, I think, as we possibly could be for the project. and that the project is as alive as it's ever been and moving as well as it has ever been today. So the third phase is also started. It didn't start right when right-of-way started, but utilities started. The utilities phase started about a month ago. Got the approval from the Transportation Cabinet to start sending out notice letters to the utility companies to let them know that they would be required, if within our right-of-way and in conflict with our design, they would be required to relocate their facilities. So I've kind of given you a shotgun blast. I'll stop for a second for questions, and with the first one, I'll probably ask both of these guys to come up here.
Pat, you've been involved in this. You might have some
Okay.
input.
First thing is the right-of-way. The right-of-way right now, from the time you originally planned this, and I have the drawings, you had a roundabout and walls and everything else. Now, basically what I see on the right-of-way is doing the current overlay, and when you get down to the two bridges, basically straightening out one, using piping, and using piping on the second bridge. Is it pretty much one going to follow the road right now? Has it changed that much? Or will there be retaining walls? Looking for some information here.
Sure. And I've got, Greg actually printed out a couple sets of plans, and we can pass those around, Greg, if you want to.
Good.
So the answer to the first question is yes, there, with the gyration of alternates that I talked about in the very beginning, when we left the River Ridge meeting, the preferred alternate had a roundabout at Edenderry.
Yep.
And it was just a traditional T or more of a Y type intersection at Amsterdam. But that was part of the we can't afford it package that basically had to go away. So we wound up with an improved intersection at Emerald Springs, but it is not a roundabout. The second question about the walls. There are, I believe Greg told me before we came into the meeting, we've got a total of like 1,800 linear feet of walls throughout the project.
Yeah.
And the bulk of those are on if we're heading from Anderson down to Short Amsterdam, the bulk of those are on the uphill side on the right.
That's on the Ashley side.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. There've been a number of questions about what the wall looks like, and I'm told from Debbie that as appraisers are going in, those are the questions specifically. What's the wall going to look like? Is it going to have a facade? Is it going to look like stone? Is it going to be wood? The short answer is the jury's still out. We're working with the Transportation Cabinet right now to try to come to a consensus. I can speak for the judge and the two mayors that they all three were pretty adamant that they wanted a very nice aesthetic for the project, that we didn't want to leave like an exposed wood flagging type wall. We wanted something that looked decent, and that's not going to be an issue. We're having some discussion with District 6 about basically some of the minor details of the lower part of the wall right now, but I don't have enough to bring to you and say, this is what the wall's gonna look like, today.
Yeah, right now you do have an initial wall. I think one of them is what you did in DeVue Park, was one of the thought process, I think, in that area. And there was a couple other ones I've gotten my hands on in communications. One question, this is long-term. Since you are going to be replacing two bridges, at any time is this road going to be closed? Because we do get a lot of economic development or growth or money from the lower half, and for the safety aspect and the fire aspect.
Right. Excuse me. And I didn't answer the first part. I apologize. So to the point of the bridges, a lot of the safety concerns with the roadway are with that first, what we lovingly call the Brokeback Bridge at the bottom of the hill. Right? And that Greg's team looked at that extensively and said, well, do we replace that with a longer bridge? Because part of it is you're trying to straighten out the alignment there as well. We don't want to replace any kind. Ultimately, after a number of, again, gyrations in design, Greg's team decided that the best option there was a long box culvert. So it'll be a cast-in-place box culvert.
Okay.
what we nerds call cast in place. Basically, the thing will be built on site. It won't be trucked in pieces. It'll be built on site. The next bridge, the bridge at Short Amsterdam, is also replaced with a 84-inch
It's gonna be a elliptical,
equivalent,
yeah,
84-inch.
like a 117 by 92.
Okay, okay. So an odd-shaped pipe, the equivalent flow of about an 84-inch diameter pipe.
Okay.
And so what you'll have when you're finished, you won't know you're driving across the structure, you won't know you're driving across the bridge, you won't be on a bridge deck. They're buried structures at both of those locations.
But that road will be temporarily closed while you put that structure up?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm...
And I do want to qualify the yes a little bit.
Okay.
Greg's team has been honing in on the construction phasing details.
Yep.
But it'll basically be closed in halves.
Yeah, okay.
So there'll be a point where we'll close the upper half only to local traffic, residents will still have access, that sort of thing. From Anderson down to, well, whatever the logical cut point is, probably just on the low side of the curve. And then where we'll flip, open that side up and build the lower part of the road.
Okay,
So,
okay. Drainage. Okay, you're suddenly saying you're gonna put culverts, and when I looked at the drawings, a lot of it's gonna start roughly around the Tobin property, somewhere in there, and go down to the house that, toward Short Amsterdam. Now, since that is open, there is a stream that runs through Emerald Springs and through the area there. Has there been tests and studies done about the water flow? If I put a culvert here, you know where I'm going.
yes, sir. No, and I appreciate you asking all these questions. I've got one more that I don't want to miss. Very, very good question. So that has been one of those items that's been addressed with Greg's team as part of design, drainage design. What does the size need to be? Who decides what that's going to be? And the short of it is, the brains at GRW have worked very hard to size that thing appropriately based on the current, basically what we call the C number, the mix of pervious and impervious areas in the watershed, and it's been sized, and I'll let Greg talk in more detail. It's been sized appropriately and reviewed by the Transportation Cabinet.
Okay, so the people down there don't have to worry about suddenly changing up into a flood insurance type of situation?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. No concerns there at all.
You got a question?
Speed.
Okay.
You guys want to
Up
comment on
at
that?
Bromley Crescent Spring, at the Anderson and Bromley Crescent Springs Road, currently you have a flashing light. The reason it was turned off is traffic got bad when you first originally put that in. Are you going to add a turn lane there so it becomes functional out of there or not? I didn't see where there was an additional laneage in this drawing.
There's not. So there is no, there are no improvements on Anderson Road as part of the project, except for that which the contractor will have to do to tie in Bromley Crescent Springs right at the intersection. So the answer is no, there are no improvements
Okay.
there.
Is there any houses that you can say currently, or any major property where somebody will have to move, or is that still in the appraisal acquisition where you can't talk about it?
Well, this is a fantastic segue. I'm going to... we couldn't have planned that any better. I do want to answer the question about speed before I bow out, if that's okay with you.
Yes, please.
So we have had a number of questions come into to our office about what's the speed limit going to be. And obviously, speed and safety has been a concern for the roadway. That's why we are where we are. The speed limit today is 35 miles per hour. The speed limits are set by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Obviously, it is their road at this point. The design speed for the project is 30 miles per hour, but the speed limit after the project is completed will remain 35 miles per hour. Now, again, there have been concerns about, well, we think that's too high. We've heard that. The transportation cabinet, and Greg can attest to this a little better than I can, will routinely set a speed limit and watch it for the first year, 14, 15 months after a project is completed, to see if there are any changes that need to be made. Oftentimes, after the 12, 13, 14 month range, they'll do a speed study. The local district will perform a speed study. They'll send that data to Frankfurt, and the powers that be in Frankfurt will make a recommendation about what the new speed limit should be. In rare cases, it goes up. It's based on the 85th percentile speed of the traveling public. And so it's not what the fastest car is doing, it's not what the slowest car is doing, it's based on the 85th percentile for everybody traveling that road during the speed study. And it'll be reviewed, in all likelihood, it'll be reviewed long after we're finished with the project and it's back in KYTC's full authority, so.
I have a question. When do you estimate that the road will be closed for the bridge work?
And I'm gonna turn it over now.
Did I segue too?
Yeah. That's a fantastic segue. The short of it is, if at all possible, we're going to work with the transportation cabinet to let this thing with the least amount of impacts to school, right? The least amount of impacts to school buses, school traffic. There is simply no way to build this project that doesn't at least impact schools for one entire year. The name of the game will be to try to limit the impacts to just that year, if at all possible. So I know that's not a really good nailed down answer. But so if you're asking when the letting is, when we think we're going to be at the point where we're letting the project.
Just an estimate.
Yeah, today it will be early next spring before we're letting the project.
And for how long do you think it'll take to construct the new?
We expect that it's going to be what we call a two-season project. So, if we were lucky enough to get off the ground in May of next year, you would be lucky to finish it up by, so May of next year would be May of 20. We would hope to have it finished up before school started, or at least have it open to traffic before school started in 21, if that makes any sense. So we're going to impact, you would impact traffic from May of 20 through August, early September of 21. In an ideal
So it'll
way.
be closed for over a year?
In halves.
In halves?
In halves, yes.
The reason I brought it up is Friday I saw it alone. One of the Villa Hills police was rushing up the road from the back way to get up to Anderson to probably back up somebody in an emergency. It is a long way around if somebody has to make a trip.
That's right.
It is. The response time is critical.
Right. Yep. And I do want, all jokes aside, I do want to introduce our partners here to talk a little more about the details. Again, Debbie Taylor is our project manager with H.W. Lochner. They are handling all the right-of-way acquisition on the project. And I'll introduce Debbie to speak to some of the specifics on right-of-way acquisition and the process. Just give us a general education on that.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, whenever we brought on board in August, that was because the Transportation Cabinet had provided Canton County with official authorization to purchase right-of-way, to start the right-of-way process. And there's nothing that we can do until that official authorization comes through. First thing that happens after the county gets that authorization, they send out a notice to every impacted person on the project. So every person would have gotten a notice first from Nick, and then after that notice goes out, then I send out my own letter saying, hey, we're Lochner. If you see that vehicle come up and it says Lochner on the side, don't shoot us, things like that. To just let everyone know that these are my appraisers, these are my agents, we're a company, we're really supposed to be out here. So then the next thing that we do is identify priority parcels. And priority parcels are going to be the ones that relocations are involved. Or if there is a utility issue, if there's something specific with a utility, or if it's a parcel that we feel like is going to take a little while to clear because there's a whole lot of levels of ownership that have to be figured out, things like that. So we try to identify those priority ones first. And then after we do that, those are the ones that we send the appraisers out to visit with first. And the appraiser will call, make up an appointment. We want the property owner to be present at this appointment. And if it's a relocation parcel, our relocation agent is also going to be present. Because we don't want someone, and I'm like Nick, my voice is going to start cracking here in a minute. We don't want someone, first of all, to be shocked about this, and that's why there's the upfront public involvement that GRW and Kenton County did. So this is something that we want as much information out there as possible. And then whenever the appraiser gets out there and our agent gets out there, the first thing that they do is they give the property owner a set of plans, and they explain the set of plans. And they say, this is what is happening on your property. And then they do their site inspection. They finish their evaluation. It gets sent in to another reviewer, so it's a second level review. So we have a totally different person who does the second level review. When it passes the second level review, that valuation goes on to KYTC, and it goes through a third level review and a fourth level review. So we really want to feel like that by the time we send an agent out there with the approved offer, that this is a fair market value offer, that everyone is going to be treated fairly and equally. With the relocation process, that's a little more complex because you're dealing with moving someone from their home. And there are 3 residential relocations on this project. So, and that's why we want to meet with these people first and let them know about their relocation benefits. They have a large number of relocation benefits that they're eligible for or possibly eligible for. We're going to help them find a new home. We're going to, if there's a difference in what their home is worth based on what a comparable home is on the market, then they may be eligible for some additional compensation to be able to help them get into a new home.
You said there's 3 parcels like that?
There are 3
Okay.
residential
Thank you.
locations, yes. And so after we've, they're eligible for move benefits. If there's a mortgage differential, if their existing mortgage is lower than what they can get a market mortgage for today, then they're eligible for a mortgage differential payment. Help me out, Derek, what else are we? Have that covered that? Okay.
Can you speak to which properties those are?
Actually, it's on the plans, honestly. If, there's 2 down at the end of the project.
Yeah, it looks like
That's a stop
Watkins
sign.
and Lawson.
At the top of the street?
At the very...
Anderson and Bromley Crescent Springs
No,
Road?
sir, no, sir, at the,
Looks like the one with the horse, the property with
That'd be
the
the
horse.
property. then.
Yeah, that one is the third one. That makes sense.
yes. But the other 2 are down next to the creek and the culvert at Amsterdam
Yeah.
Road.
Will
You're
those
with-
houses be removed? Or is it still up
Yes,
in there?
that's part of the
Totally
process,
removed?
yes. And probably the county will include that in your construction contract, is the easiest way to do it usually.
Do they have any inclination at this time that their property's in
Yes,
jeopardy?
they know.
They know?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, they're the first people we met with.
Okay, great.
And we're already in the process of trying to help them figure out a new home.
Is there any plan to do anything with the abandoned house on the other side of the street at that corner?
Is it impacted?
No, it's not.
It's not impacted,
It
no.
was with an earlier alternate, but
It'll be left intact?
it's
And let me just add something. I just asked Mike about when these meetings are held, sometimes residents call and ask for somebody, is somebody from the city going to be present? The answer is no. It's between you all and the property owner.
Right.
Okay?
We are in the middle of completing the remaining appraisals. And as we've made, I think 4 offers so far? Yeah. And so as soon as we get approved appraisals, we're going to be out there making the offers to these relocation folks first and foremost. Because the appraisal process does take a little bit of time. You've got to get comparables, you've got to get all that approved, and so that is a little bit of a process. But then as soon as we get approved appraisals, we move on out into the field, make an appointment with the property owner, and meet with the property owner, make the offer, explain the relocation benefits to them yet again, find out what it is that they're looking to do. If you have, one of the nice things about the relocation benefit program is if you're a tenant, then your rent supplement money you can actually turn into a down payment and become a homeowner. And so that's something that we feel like that is a really good part of the relocation that we do. That's been the fun part is turning people who never owned a home into a homeowner. I have one lady on a project in Bullitt County. She was 83 years old and never owned her own home, and so she was able to get to own her own home after that. So, you know, there are really good things about the relocation benefit program, and the goal of the program is to not put anyone in any kind of situation of hardship. So, that's a real rushed little. Anybody have any specific questions of having to do?
I've got two more.
Okay.
Short Amsterdam. Is this project still going to run concurrently with Bromley Crescent Springs Road?
I can speak to that.
Yes.
I opened another can of worms.
So they are under separate design contracts. The Short Amsterdam sidewalk project is what you're
Yes.
referring to. And Palmer Engineering is working on that for the county and the cities. And they are unlikely to run concurrently at this point. I think in our last meeting, we had said, and even maybe in the last council meeting, excuse me, we had said ideally we'd let them at the same time.
Yeah.
For economies of scale and for a little bit of better coordination between traffic control plans. At this point, I think it's unlikely that they get let together based on the schedule that this project is now on and that project's on.
Okay.
So, and it's probably a separate meeting's worth of discussion, candidly.
Okay. I think that's it for me.
In general, a right-of-way question. In general, would you say that the right-of-way area of this road corridor is shrinking? Is road right-of-way being kind of offloaded to some of these adjoining residents as part of this, or is road right-of-way increasing?
Especially in the Emerald Springs area.
Well, okay, now this is Grace going to come up here, because I didn't do the design plans.
Yeah, because the existing road is even curvier than the one we're designing, obviously, that old right-of-way will still be there. And then where we're cutting the corners and straightening things out a little bit here and there, that'll be additional right-of-way. So it's bits and pieces, but in all, we're not losing any right-of-way.
Gotcha.
In the Emerald Springs area, as far as we could determine, the roadway is owned privately, so that there is no right-of-way change there. I mean, we'll be buying easements to build and adjust the road to the new area.
Greg, you may want to touch on the multi-use path that you're inherently you're
You
getting.
got Emerald Springs behind
You're
you.
getting,
Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
With the multi-use path.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, the roadway footprint, the corridor is widening, is the whole impetus for this project is multimodal to allow bicyclists and
Right. Walkers.
walkers, runners, whatever, to be able to have a corridor to go through to get from their subdivisions, hopefully up at Triple Lakes and from down around 8, ultimately up to the shopping centers and whatnot. So that we are adding, the main part of the project is the multi-use path. And that will be an 8-foot path. It will be 3 foot away from the back of the curb. And then there has to be 2 feet behind it. So, do the math that you're adding that much width ultimately to the road, which is why we need the wall on the right side. So on the right side of the road, to add that extra width and the width of the road. The road is widening in some places, in other places we're still trying to keep it fairly narrow where you can, because if you make it too wide, people go too fast. So we're sticking with the 30 mile an hour design speed. and in the curves there's widening, which means 10-foot lanes, but every time you approach a curve, it's widening, so it's widening everywhere, you know, so that.
And you're straightening it out too.
Yeah, we're using the center line alignment will be per the design standards for a 30-mile-an-hour design speed. Right now, if you look at the current alignment, it's somewhere between 20 and 25-mile-an-hour design speed, and that's if it was level, you know, and it goes up and down. So we're significantly improving the ride of the road. But then having the wall on the right side of the road, since we're widening the footprint, we're cutting into the hillside, and there'll be a wall that is typically in the 9 to 10 foot range, 8 foot in a lot of places. And then there's 1 or 2 places where it gets a little higher, up to about 16 feet for short distance. But so when we check that, we have to push the wall back so you can see around the curves because the road's so wide. So it's a tight corridor, and that's why we had so many iterations. And I think, Pat, you were asking about, you called it an overlay. We're really putting a new alignment from Edenderry down.
Yeah.
It is really a brand new alignment, but at the same time, we're trying to put it in the same location as the existing road. And that's one of the reasons we have to shut the road down for periods of time.
I can understand that. And actually, okay, I live in Emerald Springs and trying to go out of there 2 to 5 times a day,
Yeah.
working. It gets sometimes scary making a left-hand turn.
Yeah, that's why we're softening the curve around there,
Yeah.
and that's why we cut into the side of the hill on what I'm calling Edenderry East. I call it Edenderry East and West.
Yeah.
And coming at a flatter angle.
Yeah, and there's 52 homes up on the other side in the Ashley development.
Yeah.
So there, I mean, you've got 235, 52, that's 286 homes that are affected.
Right. So we should be improving the sight distance coming down
Okay.
there too. That's one of the main things that we looked at the intersection, because we knew that was the biggest concern for everyone. And where there's the 3 lanes right now, you've got the turn lanes and there's a bulge
Yeah.
to get around the people trying to turn. We're trying to smooth that all out. And,
Okay.
and it should be very much improved that way.
I'm finished.
The pole that is a couple of feet off of the pavement in the sharp turn by the creek, is that going to be eventually moved out well on beyond the path even? There's
By
a,
the
there's a
creek,
wooden electric,
Most of the electric poles are right next to the road right now. What I can say about that is from Amsterdam down to Edenderry, just to bring this, that is more of an overlay. We're following, we tried to straighten it out a little bit, but it's pretty much following the same alignment. So those poles will have to be adjusted a little bit, but there's not a lot of room. They'll be shifted off the road a little bit, but the poles are a little bit of the exception. Everywhere else, we're going to try to move the poles so we'll get adjusted, and we'll move them as far as we can outside the curbs.
Will there be any new lighting on the road?
That was one of the things that was in the original budget that we couldn't keep up with. Currently, there's existing lighting, so the utilities is being designed by cabinet, or being coordinated by cabinet. So we're going to try to see that they'll be able to at least put the existing lights back in any place there's a pole. That's one of the reasons why if you move those poles back too far, then you can't put the light back on. But that's what we're going to try to do is at least have the lighting that's there now put back. But if we come up with some extra money, we can go back there. We'd love
Look
to
at
do
us.
that happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the goals that I wish we had funds to do that. So somebody had an extra pot of money there.
On the area as you go down the hill and approach Edenderry, where there is a retaining wall now, and you're going to put the sidewalk alongside the road, is that just going to be a slope the rest of the way, or will there be a new retaining wall built?
The wall right at the creek?
No. This is shortly after you turn off of Anderson. As you're going down and you're about to get to Edenderry on your left, there's that retaining wall and no sidewalk there. Just the sidewalk goes down through the woods, but you're going to move the sidewalk now up to the road area.
the sidewalk will be moved up to the road.
Will there be a
I'm not-
new wall
I'm not sure.
on the low
what
side
wall.
there?
I'm not familiar with the wall. Huh?
It's the property with the garage.
Yeah, just down from the
Oh.
property with the garage.
I think the wall is sunk below the road.
Yeah, it is. You can't see the wall from the road.
Because the road is sunk there too, is that something they're gonna take care of?
That area where that sidewalk that goes over the hill,
Mhm.
that will be sloped. So-
That'll be sloped.
Yeah, so that sidewalk is one of the things that, yeah, it's being replaced with the multi-use path.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah. So
And
we're
that's
gonna have to
good.
Cut that off because that slope will be, it'll be a 3-to-1 slope.
So that's gonna be all
So
cleared
that's-
out.
That's all, yeah, there's a lot of filling.
That'll feel different. Will there be?
And actually, a lot of the tree line is a little bit down further, so it's less clear. And I was like, you know, I thought all those trees are gonna be gone, but
Yeah.
there's gonna be a strip there
Okay.
that will be remaining, so. But yeah.
You just mentioned a lot of the trees will be gone down the road. Tobin's property and Emerald Springs property, are you gonna put up some, like, walls for barriers, sound and for lights? Because those properties do get very close to the road now.
Yeah, well, there'll be obviously on the uphill side, the retaining wall. On
Yeah.
the lower side, there isn't any, I don't think we impact, we're trying to stay as far away from that, there's that row of trees. along
Yeah.
it. We're gonna tie into that berm, but
Those
I'd have to
row-
look at the specifics in each little area. but-
Because that row of trees really goes down and really protects Emerald from a lot of the lights and sound.
Mhm.
And even some of the Tobin property there,
Yeah.
the few condos or landominiums that are there.
Right, as we get down closer to the Tobin property, the road will be veering farther away from the existing road.
Okay, so it'll be more in toward
Yeah.
the Ashley
Closer
side.
to Emerald Springs, we'd have to look at the specifics, because some of those trees will impact, but we
Yeah.
tried to, we were, aware.
Try to
of-
keep
of
those there.
Tried to keep as much as we can.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the specifics because there is a berm there too. And,
Yes.
And that berm is kind of what's controlling the water too.
Yeah,
With our curb and gutter, it won't have to serve that purpose anymore. So we're kind of tying into that berm. But again, I have to look at the specific locations to tell you if that tree is gonna.
I guess
It'll come or go.
Pat's real concern is if it starts to feel like those residents are very exposed now to more traffic, will there be a possibility to get some buffering added in the form of plant material?
That might be something in the right-of-way side of things. If there's trees that are on the property that are going away, then that would be something that they would be negotiating about.
okay.
If the trees were taken in as part of the appraisal or part of the acquisition, then they would be compensated for the lost landscaping. And it would be up to the property owner to decide what they wanted to put back because, do you want someone else picking your trees? I personally wouldn't, but,
Okay.
so it leaves it up to the property owner to make their own decision about buffering.
Is there still a website for the project?
There is a website. It is not up to date like we'd like with the updated schedule and alignments. So I would tell you that it's on our list. The county, the site is housed on the county's website, and we're in the middle of a website migration right now. So it is not up to date and may not be up to date for a few more weeks. But if you have people call in, you're absolutely welcome to shoot them right my way. Send them to our office, our phone number. I can give that here. It's 392-1920. You can email me directly, and we'll get residents in touch with the right information and the right contact.
But it sounds like it'll be back up in May, June-ish.
I hope that it's up by the end of May.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good source of information.
Yes. Yep.
Thanks.
Anything else from you all? I think this has been one of the better briefings we've had about the project and getting firmer dates as we get closer to it. It's been 4 years now. I think we've been into discussion about this. We do have some representatives from the Homeowners Association from Emerald Springs, so I would like to ask you all if you would stay, have a seat, please. And we had 5 people who signed up And I think this gentleman here, you want to sign up? Okay, well, we'll just let you go first and I'll sign you up. And it's my understanding that the mayor had decided that the speakers would be limited to 3 minutes speaking.
Well, that's fine.
Okay? And if you could just cite your name when you get up and your address.
My name is Timothy Flynn. I live at 2103 Clare Glen, Unit 301.
Could you say your name again, please?
Tim Flynn, Flynn,
Okay,
2103 Clare Glen.
okay.
What I want to say is I hope that the council will take into consideration, because several of the things that were said today are true, but they were a little rosy. The trees will be gone. The appraisal will tell us it's in the cost of the land. That'll be gone. And if you want to see what they do when they clear the right-of-way, go out to Pleasant Valley Road, go out to Mount Zion Road, and look at the war zone that's there. Because they're going to wipe out the trees. And Greg said that they're going to work to try and keep the buffer. Well, the developer put that buffer in for a reason. And the reason was to keep the lights coming up the road from going into the units. And if that buffer is destroyed and that landscaping is gone, so is the buffer. So remember, you are representing us, the residents. This particular roadway was designed, and I believe, I never heard the need or the purpose, but I believe it was to help eliminate traffic along the new bridge that was going to be put in part of the Raleigh corridor. What I ask is that you remember that this is a residential area. Our hill is going to be impacted. One of the things you heard tonight was this doesn't meet SD1's regulations. Well, there's a big stream, water source that goes along the side of that. If it's not meeting SD1's requirements, maybe that's a problem. Something needs to be looked at, because that creek is bad. And with the roadway and the curb and gutter, all the water that's in that roadway is now going to go to our creek directly, because it'll be through the curb and gutter system. And the last thing I'd like to point out is there's going to be several hills that are going to be put back at a 2.5 to 1 slope. And we hope that holds. We don't know, we'll see. But I would really like to see sod put into those areas, because this is a residential area. And these people are going to be going from a waterfall that I have outside of my unit. There's a waterfall. And now I'm going to be seeing a dirt wall coming down. It's not going to be the same. So please take that into consideration. I know costs are a lot, but you know, they're asking us at the Homeowners Association to make a decision on acquisitions when they can't even tell us what the wall's going to look like across the street that 48 residents are going to look at every single day. How are we supposed to make a decision if we don't know what it's going to look like? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who's up next? Whoever. Just state your name and address.
Dot Cloker,
Okay?
you need the address.
Yes, please.
It's 2097 Clare Glen, Unit 201. Okay. One of the questions that we have is in reference to the appraisal that's going on. And I believe the title report reflects that Henry Fisher, as the owner of what the HOA believed to be deeded to them when the transfer from the builder to the HOA took place. And the parcels 9 and 11, and the roads of Edenderry and Clare Glen. So our problem right now is we can't negotiate in good faith without all the property info, and neither can the consultant. So we need to have the titles and deeding and everything needs to be researched, because we're involved in the appraisal, but we're sitting here with Henry Fisher as the owner of quite a bit of the property.
Well, Pat just apprised us of this right before council started tonight, that Fisher Homes have property that they own that we were unaware of. Maybe the KDOT was, the county was, I don't know.
This came up, basically, I told council at 6:45 what was going on, so we're still up in the air from what you find out as the
Right.
homeowners association.
Yeah,
You also have to realize, we're just a player in this too.
right.
And there, I don't know how many entities are involved in this. There's KDOT, there's the city of Fort Mitchell, there's Crescent Springs, I think the county, of course, you know, so we're just one of the players in this.
Oh, I understand that very well. We're just trying to get worked out so that with the appraisal and so forth, where we stand with this. And, you know, because of the fact we thought everything had been transferred over to us from the builder, and evidently there's some problems that we need to work out.
I understand that you got legal counsel today?
We
or-
are going, yes, we are to have the titles and everything researched
Okay.
and whatever. I do have a couple other questions
Go ahead.
too. Okay. When construction is started and we have lighting that's connected to the rock walls that are up at the entrance and so forth, that's going to come down, I'm sure, with all the electrical and the clearing and everything what's done. We will not have any lighting to turn into our area. Can there be some type of temporary lighting put there for us? Because you cannot see, that's dark there coming in and out at night.
I'll answer that when I get back up.
Okay, okay. And then the other question I have is in reference to the walkway that I think you were talking about before, that goes from our property up to the top and comes out there on the top of Anderson Road. Okay, when the appraiser was there and was talking to us, we said that walkway was going to be taken completely out because of the new walkway out on the road itself. But then according to the plans or information that we just recently got, that they were going to take half of it and leave part of the walkway that goes no place. So wouldn't the walkway need to be, the whole walkway need to be taken out?
I'll address that too.
Okay. Okay. That's all I hear.
You just made it on a little bit over 3 minutes. Time that just right. Okay, who's next?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I'll just,
Well, come on up.
yeah.
Your name and address, please.
David Boyle, 2136 Longford.
Okay, Mr. Moore.
I just, the only concern I have is a safety concern about the fact that that's a dangerous intersection at the entrance. And so I'm putting in, once again, a request for some sort of way of, like a four-way stop or something at the intersection there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone on council? Any questions? Okay. Well, we thank you for your time.
Who's going to answer those questions?
I'm sorry, what?
Who's going to answer the questions?
Okay.
You've already taken this much time.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, for starters, Tim, I thought I recognized you. So Tim and I used to work with Greg at the Transportation Cabinet, so it's good. Tim has a basis for what he's talking about and has, obviously reasons to be concerned. I do want to address the SD1 issue just briefly. So there are basically federally regulated MS4 districts, municipal storm sanitary sewer districts throughout the nation. SD1 just happens to be ours, our local district. The Transportation Cabinet operates under its own MS4. So I don't think there's any cause for concern in switching MS4, as the Cabinet has a very rigorous review process. All of the approvals will go through Kentucky Division of Water and the Army Corps of Engineers for the sizing of the culverts and all those things. Tim is absolutely right that the storm water will come off and go into the creek that is adjacent to all the entire roadway. It will be probably more concentrated in places than it is now because we put in a curb and gutter section, so it will be coming out through collector pipes and boxes throughout the corridor. Whereas today it sheet flows off and gets there and drags everything with it all the same. To the point about the look of the wall, there's nobody in this room that wishes they had the look of the wall down any more than yours truly. I wish I could present to you this is what we've got in mind. You know, as Tim knows, in terms of appraisals, what the wall looks like, you know, across won't have a whole heck of a lot of bearing in terms of what can be negotiated for the association, but we will look at the berm and how that ties in this week. We'll take another look at that, Greg, and see what's being done there. And as always, that should be taken into consideration with the right-of-way process. So the second set of questions. There was a question about what properties Fisher owns versus what properties the HOA owns. That, well, candidly is kind of a separate issue. Now, in terms of our involvement, the county, the cities won't be involved in that separation issue. The H.W. Lochner H.W. Lochner, their subs, have done all the title research and all the deed research to know that what parcel they are offering on, they will be able to show you basically what they have that is deeded off to the community, and that will be the piece that you guys will be negotiating for. Now, it will be a separate issue, no doubt, for the association if it's a surprise today that Fisher still owns some of the property, or a subsidiary of Fisher still owns some of that. That is something obviously you're going to get worked out, but it'll be outside of this process. Yes, sir.
Has Henry Fisher been appraised of the fact that this is going on and he owns this property and it's going to be affected?
So they are, the short answer is yes. I said, it is I can't think of the owner at this point. It's a Fisher subsidiary, and they received the same letter that the homeowners association did and all the residents did along the corridor. If a property, this is what Debbie was saying earlier, if a property was going to be affected, potentially affected, temporarily affected, they received a letter at the very beginning of the project to say, this process is coming. So, the construction of, the temporary lighting issue, admittedly, and I'm gonna let Debbie and Greg take this one, I am not as familiar with exactly where your entrance walls fall with the proposed. Again, that's another one of those things that I would implore you to talk about during the acquisition process. That, you know, you'd love to see temporary lighting. I'll make no promises. I can't make commitments on their behalf, but those are the types of things that I think the homeowners association needs to be communicating with the right-of-way agent. So make sure you do that, and then I'll let Greg speak to the walkway alignments, the new versus the old. Before I bow back out, maybe for the last time, to the position about the four-way stop. I believe you were talking about the four-way. Used to be like say a four-way stop at Eden Dairy. There, through all the gyrations, there was a whole lot of talk about what's the safest alternative for that intersection on the tail end. Again, we started with a roundabout approach. Now we're where we are today. At this point, the transportation cabinet has not entertained a four-way stop for the intersection, but that's not to say that it's precluded at some point in the future. It won't be built that way with this current project. But anyway, I'll let Debbie actually answer the wall construction, how it's affected and impacted the temporary lighting possibility.
Well, what's going to happen is whenever the appraisal's done, your actual lighting and everything that you have, your landscaping, that's all there, that'll all be and the appraisal as far as you'll be compensated for replacing that. Now, as far as temporary lighting, again, that'd be something that you might want to discuss during the negotiations. Is that if, and then we would just have to look and see if there was possibly anything we could do. I don't know how much lighting you have now.
It's all lighted, the whole
wall.
rock wall.
Okay, 'cause I've only been there during the day.
The problem with the rock wall is it's actually, according to the plans, on Henry Fisher's property. So it's Eden Dairy Drive. Everybody knows about it because you want it to be a city road. I can't blame them. Nobody want to maintain it. We understand it. But it's not even under the homeowners association. It's listed as Henry Fisher. So again, we'll look into that. We don't really know.
Well, our title report did come back and show that, and I think Greg's research had shown
Yeah,
that before, and then our
Well,
attorney
there
came
should be
back and
something.
verified it. so-
There should be something in the bylaws that once 51% of those units were sold,
I don't
that
disagree
green
with
area
that.
should have been transferred over,
Right.
so.
And we
But again,
we
it's,
have run into this issue before with HOAs, and it's just a matter of getting all the parties together in a room to decide that this should have taken place. If it's in your bylaws, it should have taken place, and so maybe we're looking at a quick claim deed really fast.
Yeah.
As long as you can get all the parties involved.
Sounds like a good issue.
That's right, absolutely. But if it was, if it's in the bylaws, if that's what was supposed to
It's in
happen,
that.
it was just an oversight, then
Well, that's what we're hoping.
well, and that's been the situation in a whole lot of these instances where we've come up against things like this. It's just, for some reason, at some point, they forgot. They finished the development and they went on and they forgot they were supposed to transfer the property. So,
Okay, there's two things I think I want to talk to. One other concern that Tim had mentioned that we take very seriously is he spoke about the stability of the slopes, that we have some 2-to-1 slopes, and this design does have some 2-to-1 slopes. We had our subcontractor, Geotechnologies Inc., do a thorough 2-phase geotechnical investigation of the entire project. They took hundreds of cores and did detailed analysis of all of those. Typically on a road like this, or on a road designed for Kentucky standards, a steeper 2-to-1 slope is the standard. A lot of times in northern Kentucky, that's not good enough. So we tried in most places to put 3-to-1 slopes wherever we could. That's flatter than the 2.5-to-1, and even flatter than the 2.5 and the 2-to-1 slope. If we went with that current standard, we may not have needed the wall. We could have just put a slope up the top side, but we knew that wasn't. So, but Geotechnologies did a thorough investigation. They're a local firm, used to be Thielen, and so I don't see why there should be any concerns as far as that goes. Just wanted to get that taken care of first. The other thing was the sidewalk, the discontinuous sidewalk, and that sidewalk that is at the toe of the slope and it wraps around is actually very steep, comes up the side of the hill. That's one of the places where we have a flat 3-to-1 slope coming down, and most of the sidewalk gets covered up. There's just no way to avoid it unless someone wants to put a real long staircase that nobody would use. But it would be handicap accessible. So there will be a connection of the sidewalk up Eden Dairy to the new multi-use path. Now, the sidewalk that does get cut off, and you're correct like that, we certainly didn't want to show taking more right-of-way or more easement to remove something on the front end in case somebody wants to use it. If you want to extend it to make a hiking trail or something around there, we didn't show that on initial design because that's extra. We show what you need to build the road. So that's another thing that if there's a direction you want to go with that, we can certainly accommodate that during construction. The only caveat to that is to remove more of that sidewalk, there would have to be an agreement. Consent release would be how we prefer to handle it, so that we don't have to revise the right-of-way or the easement. But if you want that removed as part of the construction, then right-of-way negotiators should be able to discuss with you putting that in the agreement to do it as part of the construction. Because we certainly, it's not a huge deal for the contractor to be able to do that and then restore it. That was one of the things that's like, how do I want to handle this? Do we put a turnaround at the end of the sidewalk? Certainly, so, yeah, but there's lots of possibilities that whatever is preferred.
Okay.
I had one last question that was spurred by one of these questions is, there will be a lot of clearing and regrading, and typically when we regrade or reestablish landscape, it's just seed and straw. But since this is a stream corridor and people are used to the hardwood look, is there a way to get a hardwood restoration, saplings and whatnot, as opposed to just a fescue mix that's not going to look anything close to what people are used to?
I should ask the guy with the money. Well, I don't know. Typically, and it's not standard to put seeds back. Usually when you do replant, they're usually for mitigation for damaging a stream or something to do with that. And then it's typically a seedling. If there's anything more than a seed, and then when you do seedlings, it's usually you plant 100 of them and hope 10% live. If they're anything bigger, then it takes a lot of care to keep them growing. So on typical highway jobs, that's not part of it. If it's something that the county or the cities want to pursue, we can certainly include them in the design. But somebody would have to decide where to put them and what to put in and where and what the cost would be. But it doesn't preclude something like that from happening. It's just, what would that be? I think earlier somebody also mentioned sod. Sod is something that we typically use when it's somebody's lawn or it's something that they can water, because sod looks great. If you plant it at the right time of year and the rain hits right, it's the best thing in the world. If it doesn't wash away first and it gets rooted. But we've had better luck with just the seed, unless it is in somebody's front yard where somebody, you can expect to water, because it takes more watering than you can expect a contractor to come and do. They're required to water sod and seed, but to come back every time the sun shines a little bit hotter than the day before, it usually doesn't happen. So there's not a lot of success unless it's in somebody's yard. So, and we try to put that behind the curbs in the places where the seed and the straw might blow away, and we'll usually put sod.
Do you put that netting down? How they have alongside? Any
place there's a ditch or what would be a valley, a swale, we would put either, if it doesn't have a rock channel lining, then you would put the temporary netting that is like the fiber mat till it gets established, and then the grass would grow through that. But that'd be the only place we would use it, is where there's a swale, or if there's a particular spot where we expect erosion on a steep hill or something like that at the outlets of the culverts.
If you go down there this time of year, you can see all of the volunteer pears, and honeysuckle and whatnot that are flushing out early and flowering. And if we just seed this with straw, we're going to have a forest of that soon. Is there any consideration for trying to make sure that we don't get a pear forest?
Trying to prevent the pears?
Yeah.
I wish somebody had an answer for that. They're beautiful this time of year, but
Is there a landscape architect involved in the process at all?
no, not usually. There only is when there's a particular, like I said, if there's mitigation, if there's stream being destroyed and being rebuilt, then you usually get the landscape architects, or if there's landscape in a particular yard. I mean, sometimes you would do that, but it's handled better on the right-of-way side of negotiation side, because then the people can do what they want rather than put it in the contract and then expect somebody else to do it to their liking.
And I drove down there the other day when it was raining really, really hard, and I noticed, like, on the opposite side of the street from Emerald Springs, there's parts of the road where there's a drop off,
Right.
okay? And there was water coming down from the hillside into that ditch to that drop off, okay? Not going into the stream, I don't know where it goes, I imagine finally it routes its way around downhill and goes into the stream. But would I be correct in assuming that when you do the piping or whatever you call it, for the road, could they expect more water to be going into that stream on their property?
Are
That
you
you'd be
talking about
routing that water that's going right now down, like the drop off from the road? That water would be directed to the stream. So would there be more water
The
going?
water
or-
should be the same. Couple things. You're talking about where the slope is steep on the right,
Yes.
and then there's like a ditch. It's
Mhm.
basically a gutter, but it's
It's a
not
big
paved.
ditch, and there
It's-
was water just rushing down that ditch.
Right. So,
That
couple
I'm
things.
thinking it's gonna be rushing over
Goes under
the other
bridge.
side of the road.
Goes under the bridge, I think.
Couple things we're doing, above the wall, we're putting a paved ditch to catch that water most of the water on that hillside sheets down, which is usually rare.
So
Usually
it's not
there's-
gonna go under the
So
road to the street.
It'll go into a ditch, a paved ditch above the wall, and then it will be piped underground, and then it will be outletted down by the stream. And then the water on the roadway surface that doesn't get caught by the wall, with the super elevation being proper, it's gonna catch in the curb, and then there'll be curb boxes to
When
catch
you
that.
say down by the stream, down to the stream, you're not talking the part that's over behind the condominiums at Emerald Spring.
It'll be mostly past that. There's defined places where the drainage you're talking about crosses the road. There's like about 3 places where it crosses the road now. You can't see those because there's just a pipe under the road. That ditch that you're talking about at the edge of the road, it enters that and crosses the road and then
It
goes over
does?
the hill now.
Okay.
So we're trying to, whenever you do drainage, we try to put things back to the same place, as close to where it was going before. And that's what we'll be doing here. We'll collect the same water and we'll outlet it into those same locations. And most of those they'll be between the Emerald Springs Apartments and in the bridge at the bottom of the hill. In that area is where there's like 3 places where it streams over the hill. I hope that answered your question.
As you can see, we're very interested in this project. We've been thinking about it for a long time.
Which brings to mind, when would it be appropriate to have another briefing such as this? Are you, do you have a completion date for like phase whatever, and you could come and brief us about, what happened with all the appraisals and the acquisitions and so forth, or do you think that's gonna take a year's time, or we're talking that maybe there'd be some developments within the next 3 to 6 months that we should be apprised of?
I think that's probably good. And I looked at Debbie to see, I'd love to be able to come back and give you a good solid number. We're at 75% complete with the right-of-way process, those sorts of things. And I won't jump in, but I don't see anything wrong with coming back maybe midsummer, second week of July, third week of July, maybe a good time for us to stop back in. We will have moved the ball, our consultants will have moved the ball by then. We won't be at a point of, hard and fast dates, but that may be a good time, Debbie.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say August, but July's fine.
We'll go with September. Yeah, first of August.
Okay, well,
Somewhere in there. would probably be a
the
good time.
second Monday in August, and we'll plan that. That's our regularly scheduled council meeting for August.
Perfect.
Okay.
Would you like for us to coordinate, or April, do you want to reach out?
April will.
Will you send you an email?
Perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the residents? I know you don't have all the answers you want, but I don't think any of us do we?
Well, we may be at a point of finality with the wall, for example, and the wall
Okay.
aesthetics. By the next time we come back, I certainly hope we're there at that point. So
Okay.
those sorts of things we ought to be able to have a better handle on late summer, early fall. So
Okay.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for all the good questions.
And
Thank you very much
to the
for all my
homeowner.
questions.
I appreciate it.
Okay, we're gonna move along and we're gonna. Okay. The attorney's keeping me straight. We're going to go back to the approval of minutes of the March 11, 2019 council minutes. Do I have a motion on the table?
I'll
Chad's
second
making
it.
a motion, second. Let's have a roll call vote.
Who seconded?
Chad.
Pat.
Pat. Chad Longbons?
Yes.
Vince Albanese?
Yes.
Carter Dickerson?
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse?
Yes.
Patrick Hackett?
Yes.
Bob Mueller?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the March 15th, 2019 special meeting minutes. We need a motion on the floor. Chad's first? Okay, I think that's what I heard.
I'll second it.
Okay, then, Vince is gonna second it because somebody twisted his arm.
Chad Longbons?
Yes.
Vince Albanese?
Yes.
Carter Dickerson?
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse?
Yes,
Patrick Hackett?
Yes.
Bob Mueller?
Yes.
okay, thank you. Chief Lynn, you've been a very busy man this weekend.
Unfortunately.
I will be very, very brief. April sent out the run totals in your packets. 103 ambulance runs for the month, which is up considerably, 50 from last year. 59 fire calls, 168 year-to-date, that's up 36. Update on the new firehouse, I sent both mayors an email. We had hoped to get some builders on board to help us with the process. However, our legal counsel said if they're going to bid any part of the process, that excludes them. So we had hoped that Tobin's and a few others, but we don't want to exclude them from the building process. So, as you mentioned, we've been very busy. We had a garage fire, an explosion Thursday night, and then followed up by the tanker incident, which took 10 hours to clean up on Friday afternoon. Anything else that you have any questions about?
Thank you for being patient and waiting.
Yes.
Yes, thank you,
Thanks, Chief.
thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, finance
No
report,
report.
no Madzek,
No report.
no report. Chief Allen, police report.
Are you as brief?
I'm gonna try to be.
Okay.
We'll get there. Again, April sent out my packet ahead of time, so you should have all the numbers. 580 runs to Crescent Springs. We had 1,081 for the month. Total crimes 19, total collisions 15, citations 91, courtesies 80, call responses 7. We did have 1 assault, 2 burglaries, 4 larceny, and a robbery. On the larceny, I will tell you that LA Fitness, we had several cars broken into. We do have suspects. We do have film of the suspects. We're just trying to identify them. As soon as we identify the subjects, we'll make the arrest and charges. Buttermilk, again, wins the race for the most accidents, followed by Anderson. Buttermilk and Anderson, that intersection is a problem intersection. And then with the new lights that just went up, now everybody's making U-turns. So we're gonna have to work on that. We can't enforce the U-turns unless there's a U-turn sign there. So you might want to request a state, it is a state route. I cannot.
They have to be the ones.
They have to do it. I cannot grant it. I can only request
Can
it.
you do
but
that,
then
Dewey?
That won't happen.
Will you do that, request the
Yeah, we
state?
can.
Between us, we call over and ask them, where do you want the sign?
Just before the slats, what they're doing is they're coming out going right, and then they're making a U-turn. They almost struck a fire department a couple times.
So you want it on Buttermilk by Walgreens there?
Yeah, just
Well,
up from it coming this way.
The cabinet may have
This
rules
way.
on where you have to put that.
Yeah.
The cabinet may have rules on where you have to put that sign.
What they're doing is they can't go left now, so they're going right, and then they go up past the slats, and then they'll make the
So they go
U-turn.
around the slats.
Yeah. That's something we didn't realize was coming.
On
That
Anderson,
intersection.
they go down Buttermilk, and on Anderson, they're doing a U-turn?
No,
Oh,
going down Buttermilk, making a U-turn.
They'll go right out of Walgreens and then
Okay.
go around.
But that already
They turn
adds to
right
that.
before the, right after the mayor's stop.
That already
Right
adds to
before
that
the-
intersection, which is a solo intersection anyway.
Well, I was thinking that we ought to paint on the parking lot at Walgreens as you're making your choice to go left to Buttermilk or right up to Sarah and Emily. We ought to paint on a symbol for the interstate that says 275, go right. You know what I mean? Something to help give some people some forewarning in the Walmart parking lot before they're facing Buttermilk.
That's a private road.
I get it, but we have to work something out. I mean, we can't just keep people facing Buttermilk with this terrible decision of, well, where do I go? I have no idea where to go, so they just do the U-turn.
Well, and the problem is we really don't have a whole lot of control on that road.
I-
State decided to do what they're gonna do.
I get it, I get it.
And,
So maybe if we can, Mike, talk to Walgreens, see if they're open to us painting something on their parking lot or putting up
You
a,
need to have them painted on there, not us.
that's,
If
yeah.
we touch the property, then we become liable for that.
See that, and
We
that's,
can't do that.
that's why I want you guys to talk to them, because I don't know.
Right, you would have to
But,
get the property owner of Walgreens to do that.
there you go.
Right.
I think when Walgreens first opened, they
Probably
had
the
an arrow that you were only allowed to go out right. And through time, that's just
Well,
been
the one lane comes
eradicated.
down and makes you turn right, but they also have the lane that's in the center that people were using to come out and turn left.
And that's private drive, that's not public.
Unless they block that off somehow or paint something on the ground, like you said, but I
yeah.
think.
I feel like before people are facing these yellow barriers with the only option to go right and not knowing that you can go to Western Reserve or wherever, and they're thinking, well, I gotta make a U-turn or I'm stuck here forever, you know what I mean? So maybe if we can get them to go up to Emily and Sarah before.
Right.
I think we're gonna see more traffic going into Walgreens since now they have Kroger's items.
That,
On the
I think
shelves.
that'll change things too. That's a big change. It might hurt them.
Yeah.
I also think they'll probably go up once, particularly once Panera is there. They'll go up and they'll.
People will
cut
start
through.
using Harris a lot.
Yeah.
They really will.
Yeah, well.
The local people will get the hang of it. It's the people that, just get off the freeway and stop
We
at
set a
Walgreens
police
for
car
something.
there and just have the officer keep directing.
Unless you wanna hire me about 3 more police officers. Don't do it.
I'm thinking like stop sticks at the end of the slats, so if you make a left.
Oh, that's a good one.
Total collisions 15.
What are you
We
gonna
had
do,
one-
start tow service?
We have 1 injury collision, no fatals, commercial vehicles 2, parking lot collisions 3, and private property 1. The maps will show you the different locations of the citations, courtesy notices, and accidents for brevity of time. And I apologize, I didn't put this report, I got the report together, but I didn't put it together. It's in disarray, so I apologize for that.
Never let it happen again.
Yeah, I'll never. We're 94% closure rate on our crimes. Again, we're doing pretty good on that. We're solving a lot of issues that you're having. Again, the case offense crime code summary for the year. This is year-to-date total. That just gives you kind of an idea of what we have on arrests and crimes. On the last page, or second to last page, I apologize, you have the case numbers and the where they were arrested, they're closed, or they're still open. Court, we had 22 hours of court, shift coverage 20 hours, interviews 3, FOT, which is the federal overtime grant, which we are now running, which is on the highway. That's why you see a lot more citations on the highway in Buttermilk. 6 hours of that. We had 1 late call, total 52 hours. And then we have our training and canine training. And the last page, you should have a canine summary similar to this, I believe.
Yes.
That's that's the canine training summary. You'll get that once a month, so you kind of have an idea of what the canine's training.
What's the dog's name?
Onyx.
Onyx.
It's white.
He's about halfway through his training. He's doing very well. He'll start his drug training probably in the next couple of weeks. By May, we hope to have everything done. They'll get certified through NAPWATA, which is a national certification, sometime this June or July. But he should be on the street here 5 weeks.
Was that dog purchase, or was that privately sponsored or
It was
donated?
both, it was privately and donated, and then the city made up the difference. So.
Was it Ben Roethlisberger grant?
Ben Roethlisberger was 10,500 of it, which was about the
That's
price of the
great.
dog. So, we're still working on the problem areas that we have, the Meadowwood, those apartment areas up here at the gas stations, those are still our big areas. Again, like I said, the parking lot, we do have suspects, we're just trying to identify the suspects. We will start writing tickets. At some point in time, you have to write tickets to make people understand that you can't do what you want to do. With the school, with the warm weather, we are going to start writing tickets. And if you noticed last week, during school zone, we're out there writing them, and we're going to start writing them. I can only give so many warnings. So.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We are going to write tickets. Well, I'm just
Go
letting
ahead.
the council know, because council will hear about it.
Oh,
They'll
okay.
hear about how bad we are.
Bringing that up, on some of the roads that I've been on in the subdivisions, I go down and they got cars parked on both sides of the street. Fire truck can't get through, people parked in the wrong direction. What's the stance on that?
What usually is, what the standard is here is if it's on the hydrant side, that's a fire zone. So we'll go and we'll write the ticket, have them move the vehicle, because if it's on the hydrant side, you can't be parked there, because the fire truck has to have access to it. Now, wrong way, if it's in your city ordinance, and I believe it might be, I don't have to go read the parking ordinance, then we can cite for that. But if you just call us, we'll go and move the cars out of the fire lane. We always keep those available. I think we have adequate signage everywhere. So I don't know.
There's signage there and I still see them parked.
Just call us and we'll go write the ticket. And if I have to, I'll tow it. I've done it before.
It's just 3 minutes up.
Yep.
My 3 minutes is up. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dewey, you're up next, Public Works.
We've opened up the park and the restrooms on April the 1st. All the shelters are open, we've got them all clean. We've got shelter rentals coming in. We've taken the plows and the spreaders off the trucks because it's that time of year to take them off. We got our salt bin is full. We used about 150 tons of salt last year. We have the Easter egg hunt this weekend. We put up the Easter egg hunt sign. We put decorations up. We have another decoration that they bought that we mounted on the frame and stuff, and people take pictures. So we'll be putting that up over there for April. We had the rugs cleaned down here over the weekend. I received a call on a new dump truck, so they're building it right now, and we may receive it at the end of April. So it's in the process of being built. I also am sending Mike Schill, my supervisor, we're sending him to Road Scholar classes. He's got 9 classes to go to. He's on his second one down. He should have it completed sometime in June. And last thing I have is we got 3 poles today for the solar-powered speed limit signs that we're going to be putting up. It'll take us about 3 or 4 weeks to get them sanded, painted. Then we'll have to find a location out with Lou where we're going to put them, drill a hole, put them in, concrete them, and mount the signs up. And then Brian will calculate them, and then we'll turn them on, and they'll be good to go.
Are you finished painting and cleaning up over in the former police area?
Yeah, we just had an office over there for one of the officers wanted to paint it. We had that done. Yeah.
What about the downstairs? We talked about how nasty that
We've been going
was
down there and cleaning the shower and stuff.
down there,
Okay.
Took this year.
We'll take a look
more
at it.
towards the lake. And then part of there's a lot of debris
Yeah, we
down
haven't
that
been
way,
down there.
but it's too muddy right now to do anything, but keep it in mind.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to, what it did on the bridge, it was it tilted it to one side because of the cable. So we're gonna have to interject and find out what's parked underneath this cable. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Dewey, what's the status on the new restroom construction?
We're getting ready to start on that. We have to get the sanitation run down over the hill. We have to get the water line run. I'm gonna have to get the water department to come up and put a meter in over to that. And then we have a fountain we're gonna put up there, and I have to get all that hooked up. We have to install the petitions inside, get it painted, put the sinks up, and then get all that hooked up.
What's your ETA on that opening?
It's with the weather and with the plumber. That's the biggest thing is with the plumber.
Have you
That's
got a
what we
plumber?
had trouble, yeah.
Have we got a plumber lined up, ready?
Yeah, we have the same plumber,
Is that
late
Lacey?
plumbing we had last year, so it's a matter of getting in and getting there. They're so busy. We're gonna be digging the holes and everything. All they have to do is come and put the pipe in for us, and it has to be inspected. Once it's inspected, then we can cover it back up and seed and show it ourselves.
So city guys are doing the trenching and everything?
Yeah, we'll be doing all of that, and the same way with the water. We'll be doing all that too.
Okay,
And any of the restoration around that, we'll all be doing, taking care of that.
okay.
Everything inside the petitions and all that, we'll be putting all that in. All he has to do is come in and hook everything up for us.
Okay. So, what about Charters of Freedom? Is that, do you know where that stands?
We're trying to jockey between that and this. Well, the bathrooms to me is a little bit more important. I'll have to get with Lou to see what he says. But we're gonna try to jockey between the two,
Okay.
to see if we can get both done.
Okay.
Is that fully funded?
Please.
The Charters of Freedom, does anybody know that?
That's,
Should they get a-
that's funded through Lou, I believe.
I know, but I mean, did he get enough donations?
Oh, I don't know, April, do you know if we got enough donations or anything on that?
I have no idea. I believe the organization was gonna make up for what we didn't get.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay,
Okay. Anything else?
that's all.
Mayor's report, since I didn't know until 20 minutes before 7, I have nothing to report. We'll move on to old business, second reading of ordinance 2019-1, adopting the 2019 S-28 supplement from American Legal Publishing. I take it over, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you. Ordinance 2019-1, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, adopting the 2019 S-28 supplement from American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati, Ohio, the Code of Ordinances to the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky is contracted to have its Code of Ordinances supplemented by all ordinances of a general nature enacted since the last prior supplement to the Code of Ordinances up through Ordinance 2018-11, which was enacted on August 27, 2018. And whereas American Legal Publishing Corporation has completed the revision of the ordinances known as 2019 S-28 supplement, now therefore be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, Section 1, that the 2019 S-28 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky be, and the same is hereby adopted by reference as if set forth in its entirety. Section 2, that this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force, it should say in effect, after its date of passage, approval, and publication according to law. Section 3, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, to the extent of such conflict, are hereby repealed.
Okay.
And we'll make that typographical correction before Lou signs.
Okay. So, any discussion?
Make the motion, so.
Got a motion to adopt by Vince. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Mueller seconds. Roll call vote.
Chad Longbonds?
Yes.
Vince Albanese?
Yes.
Carter Dickerson?
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse?
Yes.
Patrick Hackett?
Yes.
Bob Mueller?
Yes.
Under new business, we have the first reading of ordinance 2019-4, vacating Lot 1A of Section 1 of the reserves of Meadowwood 2.
Ordinance number 2019-4, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, vacating Lot 1A on the reserve at Meadowwood 2 to reserve at Meadowwood LLC on Sierra Drive in Crescent Springs, Kentucky. Excuse me. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky has determined that it has excess right-of-way, which is more particularly described on the attached Exhibit A, described as Lot 1A, a platted lot on the reserve at Meadowwood 2, Section 1, recorded plat number 2207, and the city being desirous of vacating its interest in the previously described real estate in favor of reserve at Meadowwood LLC, and whereas the City Council and the Mayor have determined that vacating said right-of-way is in the best interest of the residents of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, and now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, the city hereby vacates all right, title, and interest to Lot 1A, is more particularly described on the attached Exhibit A, a platted lot on the reserve at Meadowwood 2, Section 1, recorded plat 2207, to reserve at Meadowwood LLC on Sierra Drive. Excuse me.
With your last breath.
I know.
It's nice of you to get this.
Get your water.
Section 2, you can tell I have a cold, can't you?
You need some water?
Well, before you keel
I
over,
got one
finish
more
this,
line.
will you?
This ordinance with the legal description and the plat attached shall be recorded with the King County Clerk of Connecticut.
Chair of my first council.
There we
Edit
go.
that out.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
There's some more.
I'm done.
Indeed.
You're done?
Yes.
Okay, that was the first reading, so no voting on that. Council, anything? Any issues from council?
Make a motion to adjourn?
No,
second.
No. No. No.
Not gonna do it.
The second has been in.
Listen to the lady, please. We need to update our website. We have new council members that have not had their picture taken. They are not on their website. So,
I don't want to be on it.
well,
We'll put a picture
we'll
up.
put Dumbo the Clown or somebody up there for you. But at the next regularly scheduled council meeting, second week of March, come in what you might consider your Sunday best.
Oh.
And we'll all have our pictures taken by the flag, like
Will we
the
get
other
a group
cities
photo
do.
while we're at it?
We could even do a group photo, whatever.
A
I'll
group
be
photo
here
sounds
early
good.
to do makeup for you guys.
Oh, boy.
So choose. But other than that, I'll have a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Okay, Vince did make that motion. He's
And I
in
second
order.
it.
And Bob seconded.
Here, here.
Here.
Here, here.
All right.
Meeting is adjourned.